Were you a fan of the beloved British sitcom On the Buses? Though it's been off the air for several decades, many people still think of it fondly. It's remembered as one of the great sitcom offerings in the UK, and a big part of that was its excellent cast. Sadly, most of the cast members, loved by viewers, have since passed away. In this video, we're taking a look at how they died, as well as a bit about their lives and their contributions to this great show. Stay tuned as Facts First UK presents On the Buses cast deaths that are utterly tragic. On the Buses aired from 1969 to 73 on ITV. Ronald Wolfe and Ronald Chesney were the brains behind the operation, having created the show. The duo also wrote most of the episodes. They had actually found their previous success via the BBC, with offerings such as Meet the Wife and Rag Trade. So it seemed a natural fit that the BBC would take on their latest project. But reportedly, the BBC had doubts that a show revolving primarily around a bus depot would appeal to a large audience, so they passed. As such, the two Ronalds were able to shop the project around. They linked up with the head of entertainment at London Weekend Television, Frank Muir, who was keen to get the show produced. Once On the Buses began to air, it was a hit. It never managed to fare well with critics, but that didn't matter. Viewers loved it, and eventually it turned into one of the most beloved English sitcoms of the era, if not all time. It revolved around Jack Harper and Stan Butler, who work at the Luxton and District Motor Traction Company, aboard the number 11 bus. It chronicled their ups and downs and illustrated a slice of life of working-class English society. Now let's talk about the cast members who we sadly have lost. Anna Karen. Anna was a fan favorite as Olive, whom she portrayed in all 7 series of On the Buses. After the show came to an end, she was able to continue with a prolific acting career, notably joining EastEnders in the role of Aunt Sal. Interestingly enough, Aunt Sal was the sister of the character Peggy Mitchell. Peggy was portrayed by Barbara Windsor, and Anna and Barbara went from work colleagues to best friends. In 1967, Anna married successful comedian and actor Terry Duggan. The two remained together until Terry died in 2008. Sadly, Anna's demise was a tragic one. In February of 2022, a fire broke out inside her home in Ilford, London. When the fire was reported, 20 firefighters and 3 fire engines got to the scene. They were able to get the fire out before too long, but sadly, at that point, it was too late for the esteemed actress. Anna had passed away. She was only 85. Reg Varney. Reg Varney played one of the 2 primary characters, Stan Butler. And while critics might have argued that the role of Butler was a fairly straightforward one, Reg believed in preparation when it came to his acting work. As such, he tried to get a public service vehicle license in order to actually drive the bus on the show. But there was an issue with insurance, so he ended up not being allowed to. The show used professional drivers for all the stunt work. Another interesting tidbit is that Reg was 52 when the show began, but Stan Butler was supposed to be around 35 and living with his mother. This meant that Doris Hare, who played Butler's mother, was only 11 years older than Stan in real life. Plus, he was 21 years older than Anna Karen, who was in the role of his sister. While Varney appeared in all 7 series, he actually left in the middle of the final one. His goal was to parlay his success on the show into a film career. Sadly, that plan didn't pan out. He was unable to get a footing in the film industry and ended up bailing on it. He eventually resorted to work on cruises as an onboard entertainer. Later on, he suffered 2 heart attacks and a stroke. It was at this point he was shifted into a nursing home for full-time care. After a chest infection, he died in the nursing home in 2008 at age 92. Bob Grant. Bob Grant played the other half of the bus-bound duo, Jack Harper. While he found success in the role, he struggled later in life. Like Reg Varney, Bob had a difficult time finding regular work. He felt he'd ended up being typecast as a Jack Harper type, and casting directors had a tough time thinking of him in different lights. He also struggled in his later years with increasing bouts of depression. He attempted suicide in the 1980s but survived it. He managed to keep going until 1995 when he tried for a second time. This time he survived as well. He decided to make changes to his life in an attempt to improve his mental health. That included moving with his wife Kim to Gloucestershire. Sadly, the burden of life, like bills piling up as well as the return of his severe depression, became too much for him to bear. This led to his 3rd attempt at suicide. Sadly, this attempt was successful, and Grant died in 2003 at age 71. Stephen Lewis. As Inspector Cyril Blakey Blake, Stephen Lewis was excellent as the heel to Harper and Butler. Blakey was the arch-enemy of the two conductors and played a pivotal role, not only in moving plots forward, but in creating tension that served up the comedy. He was also a creative resource for the show, helping Bob Grant write 12 of the show's episodes. He was also one of the leads in the spin-off show, Don't Drink the Water, which lasted for 2 series. It followed his character, Blakey, as he moved to Spain with his sister. Stephen also joined on for 3 movies based on the show: On the Buses, Mutiny on the Buses, and Holiday on the Buses. Those were released in 1971, 72, and 73. And Don't Drink the Water aired beginning in 74. So Lewis was able to parlay his success on the show into a lot more work as the same character. He also appeared with regularity on BBC One on The Generation Game. And then, leaning into the character he had originated on the buses, he played a coach driver in The Grimleys on ITV. He then took an unexpected turn as a villain in Manhunt before returning to his comedy roots with a show called Jug Brothers. That show featured a reunion with Bob Grant, but sadly it didn't get picked up after the pilot aired. His longest role was in Last of the Summer Wine on the BBC as Clem Smiler Hemingway. He perhaps would have continued on in the role, but he had to leave it due to ailing health. He died in Wanstead at a nursing home in 2015. He was 88. Cicely Courtneidge. Many people forget prolific actress Cicely Courtneidge was a part of On the Buses. She briefly played Mum on the show for the 1969 first series, aired in black and white. This Australian actress's full name was actually Dame Esmeralda Cicely Courtneidge, and her father was a producer and playwright. She was married to a dancer and actor named Jack Hulbert, with whom she performed many times over the years. They were together until his death, having been hitched for 62 years. Cicely paved the way for Doris Hare to take over the role of Mum, but she did an excellent job with the part for the first series. She lived a long life, finally passing away in April of 1980 at a Putney area nursing home. She was 87. Doris Hare. As we mentioned, Doris Hare inherited the role of Mum after Cicely left the show. She continued in that role from the beginning of the second series through to the show's end. Before joining the cast, Doris had performed with the Royal Shakespeare Company in the West End. She also had recently said no to the part of Ina Sharples on Coronation Street. After On the Buses ended, she continued to find success as an actress with steady work in the 70s and 80s. Second Best, a movie released in 1994, was her final acting job. She lived quite a long life, dying at age 95. In 2000, she passed away at an actor's retirement home in Middlesex called Denville Hall. Michael Robbins. Michael Robbins skillfully played Olive's husband, Arthur Ridge. Arthur and Olive generally were the supplemental storyline to whatever Stan Butler was doing, but they were adored by fans for comedic timing and chemistry. Similar to Reg, Michael decided to leave before the show ended. He was in the first 6 series, but then left to pursue more theater work, which was his true passion. Though he did also return for the movie spin-offs, so clearly he enjoyed playing the character enough to continue on. He also had parts in shows like Dempsey and Makepeace and Minder. He died at 62 of prostate cancer in 1992. Now it's time to hear from you. Who was your favorite character from On the Buses? Let us know in the comments section below.